So it's 12 noon, and welcome everybody to our webinar this lunchtime, 12 noon, with Harriet Curry, uh, who's on our team and a Hypno-CBT therapist and much more as well. And we're going to be discussing and talking about social media marketing for therapists, because this is an area that Harriet's dived into deeply. So welcome all of you, and welcome Harriet. And I know some people are going to be signing in, so we have a few more people coming in a minute. Just to say a couple of things, this is being recorded, so if you have to leave, don't worry. If you're registered, you'll get a replay. But we are also live streaming out on YouTube, so yeah, behave yourselves. No, that's okay. Don't worry. You won't be live on here. You do have a chat, so you can put comments in the chat here, and you have a Q&A panel as well. You can put questions in there. Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. We recognize lots of names here. So let's get started. My name is Mark Davis. I'm director and principal at the UK College of Hypnosis and Hypnotherapy, and I'm really delighted that you're joining us and taking your time from your schedule, and that Harriet's with us today, because I think Harriet's got a particular superpower in this area, not just in terms of marketing herself, but in terms of inspiring people to really grapple with the issue and the underlying fears and all our stuff around marketing our professional services. And I always want to put that in that framework of marketing our professional services, because whether you are an osteopath, a solicitor, an accountant, if you're a self-employed professional, you have to be able to market your services, your professional services. And if you don't do that effectively, you won't be in business. And if you're not in business, you're not delivering this incredible service of helping people, and creating that incredible change that this world needs and these people need. So there is an ethical duty to actually grapple with these issues. This isn't about you being greedy about earning lots of money or things. This is an ethical duty because you need to make a profit to stay in business, to continue offering these services that uplift and free people, and not just help those people, therefore, but help their community, their family, and society at large. So this is a very noble profession, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and being able to market yourself effectively and ethically is a noble thing too. So I want to frame it in all of that, and that's why we really need to grapple with this issue. And as we go through this, notice our own personal stuff coming up, and we're going to work on it. So we're going to look at all of that together, and Harriet's going to give us a great journey through this. We're going to run for about no more than 1:30. We'll definitely finish by then. And I want to just start by having Harriet introduce herself, and give a quick introduction. And we're going to unpack a little bit more about Harriet's journey so we can understand a little bit how she's worked through all of this. Then we're going to get into the whole topic of marketing and social media marketing for therapists. Do pop your questions in the chat. Do pop them. We have a Q&A panel as well, and we'll pause and go through them there. So Harriet, lovely to have you here. Yeah, just give everyone a quick intro so they can meet you and understand.
Yeah, of course.
You're not in
Thank
the UK
you.
now, right?
Yeah, I will be back in the UK very soon. So hi everyone, thank you so much for taking the time today. So to give you guys like a bit of background about me, so I actually always wanted to be a therapist, like from quite a young age, which I know is it's quite rare to do the thing that you wanted to do when you were younger. I think I watched too many movies with therapists. And I did my degree in psychology with the plan of going down this route. And I think I definitely got like, I guess, distracted along the way. And I've told this story before, but I had a lecturer who basically told all of us to not go down the therapy route because it's going to take a really long time. It's going to be really competitive. You're not going to make any money. You're going to have to work for free for a number of years. And at the end of my 4-year degree, I was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to make some money. I want to get working. So just as like an interim, I ended up working in finance for 3 years. which, was great. I really loved the job I did. It was a really good job. It was in London and met amazing people. I learned a lot, but I definitely didn't want to stay in that position. I didn't want to grow in that career. And I was always so like interested in psychology and, therapeutic theory. And like that's what I was spending a lot of my spare time like learning and like listening to lots of podcasts and stuff like that. And so it got to a point where I actually I got a bonus at work and I decided to use this bonus on a really expensive
Oh,
hypnotherapist in London. I think I listened to a podcast about hypnotherapy and then I got this bonus and I was like, right, I'm gonna, buy like really, really expensive sessions. Um, that's what I did. And I actually had a really positive experience with this hypnotherapist. And I remember when I came out of the hypnosis, the first thing I saw was her like certificate printed on her wall or framed on her wall. And I just had this like I guess thought of that's a certificate that she has achieved. I could achieve that. Like I'm sure that like I can figure out how to achieve a certificate. So I can do work like this. Um, and then that was the prompt that led me to looking for a hypnotherapy qualification. And that's when I found Mark and the college, and that was back in 2019. So that was when my journey with the college started. It took me a year to qualify because I was still working part-time. And I actually really enjoyed taking the whole year to do the course because I just really took it in. I went over things multiple times. Um, so I ended up qualifying or like finishing my studies at like the very end of 2020. And then I set up my business in January of 2021. And I quit my job in finance in March of that year. I told them straight away and I dropped down to part-time probably
oh,
because of a fear.
mm.
Just in case. And it was actually my one of my managers at work who said to me, I could keep you part-time, but then you're not gonna go fully in with your business. And it was true. Like I it was just a backup. It was a backup, it was a safety plan, but it was holding me back. Um, so my colleagues were the one who were like, we can like keep you part-time, but I think what you should actually do is quit and just like fully go 100% in on your business. And then that's what I did.
I did the same thing. I was part time because my
Yeah.
employer didn't want to let me go, and so I kept a couple of days, in doing that, and then it's something else, and then but when that fell away, it's like that's when everything took off. So it's like I do say, you can kind of dip your toe in the water, but it really you've just got to jump in. I mean, that's
Yeah.
if that's not too stressful financially to do. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I did have savings. I will say that. Like I was prepared to, not make any money for a few months because it is a new business. So that was fine. And that took a lot of the financial pressure off. But I should also say that I am a social media user. So I was on TikTok, I was on Instagram, not, I had my personal account, which was just like completely private. But I was like following people and I was following like business owners and service providers. So I was already enjoying consuming content. And I guess people were marketing to me. Like I was a consumer. Um, and I still am a consumer. Like I still really do enjoy social media. So for me, like starting like a business account on Instagram was a no-brainer. It was like, of course I'm going to do this. It's 2021. Like everything from social media. This is a free way to market yourself. It's a free way to get in front of an audience, build a community, and like be creative as well. So like for me, it wasn't like, oh, should I do this or should I not? It was, no, I'm doing this, and I don't really know of another way to do it as effectively. I know there are other ways to market yourself, like somewhat offline, but I don't think you can deny that in this day and age, social media is a huge and a huge way to market yourself.
So to begin with, I mean, so you went through that whole journey and you got qualified, and then I know we talked you when an interview we did before, you say you kind of rugby tackled the issue of like you just really committed into like, okay, I'm going to make this work, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but you were in terms of doing social media that wasn't sort of stepping back, let's create a business plan and a marketing plan and consider all the options. Oh, I'm going to do it was more just kind of, well, obviously you didn't kind of step back and look at all the marketing options. That's just your immediate, I'm obviously I'm going to do that. But it wasn't so thought through at the beginning. Was that right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. It wasn't thought through at all.
Okay. Okay.
I just created a profile and was like, "Hi, I'm Harriet. I'm a therapist."
Well, let's
Um,
just talk about that before that, because just doing that, and then I know you went off and you did some training, you got a much more considered approach to doing social
yeah.
media. But just that, doing that, going out there, launching your practice, going out there on social media, putting yourself out, hi, I'm Harriet, I'm a therapist. So no imposter syndrome going on for you at all, Harriet, because that's one of the main things people have as new. I mean, I'm a new therapist. How can I market myself as a new therapist? People only want to see therapists who've got lots of experience. That's one issue.
Mm.
Secondly, is the whole imposter syndrome thing that not everybody struggles with, and maybe but most people will kind of have some like. So talk us through that.
Yeah. So I should have said as well, I did start my Instagram account whilst I was training, and I was very clear, like I am training to be a cognitive behavioral
Ah,
hypnotherapist.
okay.
Uh, But it wasn't the reason why I don't think I mentioned it before because it wasn't a thoughtful decision. I just wanted to do it.
But this is interesting. Right at the beginning here, you're being sort of very open, very kind of authentic, vulnerable in terms of saying, look, this is what I'm doing and I'm starting this. And hey, if you want to follow me on my journey here, that's kind of part of the intention that's there. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. I think of
definitely.
some other people that did that. You know, I don't know if you know Huibi, who's was my co-teacher and translator in China when I taught over there, and she was doing clinical psychology in the UK, and she blogged through her clinical psychology
Mm,
degree or doctorate, and that became something she always kept up, having a blog like 3 or 4 times a month. She posted, and that habit continued.
mm.
Um,
Yeah,
I think it's a great thing. A great thing.
yeah. It's something that I genuinely do enjoy. Like I enjoyed like putting all of my like study materials on the table and then taking a photo and then just like writing about it. Like I created like a separate account to my personal one.
Okay.
And so I was like having people, I found it quite exciting to have people like from all different parts of the world and the country, follow my journey and tell me like, oh, that's really cool and be interested. And, again, I was the consumer of other people doing this. So it was like a two-way relationship in some instances.
Mm.
And um, I personally just really enjoyed that, I guess, as a hobby, not even considering that actually that was going to be like a really good way for me to like actually market my business and bring in clients and income.
There's a very famous guy who does marketing, passive income marketing. And the way he started was he blogged all about his experience of doing this postgraduate degree in environmental science or architecture or something. And then he found all these people have been following him. And then he just decided to create this little ebook on how to study this thing. And he sold
Um,
like 15,000. He made a whole ton of money just at the end. And it was he didn't expect it at all, but he
yeah,
just shared his journey and people were interested in the journey
yeah.
and then his
And
tips and then the whole thing.
yeah. And I think like, I think a lot of people worry about, oh, if I go on social media, would I be seen as like trying to make money off people, especially as a therapist? That doesn't feel very ethical. And I think I've never gone into it with like that mindset. I've always just been, I'm going to share with you what I'm doing. I'm going to share with, and like, as a qualified therapist now, I'm going to share with you the services I offer and like what's the psychology and theory and everything underneath that. But it's not like you have to buy from me, you have to work with me. I don't, it's not that at all. It's more, I'm just sharing with you. I'm inviting you into, learning from me in terms of what I share on social media. If it interests you, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. And that's it.
I'm not a finished product. I'm like, I'm in, because I think that's the other thing here is, a lot of people feel I've got to be finished product and have all my qualifications and before I like go out there and have everything covered off. But that's not the case at all with you, right?
No, like not at all. Um yeah, I think I don't know how helpful it would be if you presented as like I'm a therapist and I'm perfect and I have everything all together, and I think that could create like an unrealistic expectation. So, you know, whilst like I obviously keep a lot of my life private, I don't share everything. I think that's another thing people are worried about. I have to share like everything about my life and be really vulnerable, and you don't really have to be. You can choose like a few amount of things to share and be vulnerable with that, but it could be just like a percentage of your life. The core thing is like the message about your service and the value of like CBH, and just sharing that as like an invitation, not as like a you need this and I'm going to convince you and sell you into this. It's not that energy at all.
So let's just talk about that initial intention that you had, because and then how this involved, because this, communication, all communication is about it has an intention. I want you to get I want you to get this. Yeah, it's transmitting thought from here to somebody else in a way, from one mind to another. Um,
Mm.
and you're there, you're not doing this isn't about your lifestyle. We're not like watching you have your avocado toast and things like that, is it? So there is an intention around this that is also providing boundaries around even that initial, before we got into more sophisticated approach to your social media, just that initial sense of talked about, so what was your intention in doing that when you first set up your Instagram accounts? What was your I want you to get, can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, well, so it is a little bit different from my intention now. So my intention when I first started was more, I would say it was more educational. So I was
Hmm.
more like sharing like facts and theories and like things that I found interesting. Um, that was more of the vibe. It was just more education. Whereas now I would say my intention is I'm putting education into context based on like the type of client and the presenting issue that I want to work with. So right now I'm working a lot with people who are going through breakups and like women who have been rejected in like a dating environment, and that's affected their self-esteem. So I'm talking about let's say I could talk about like, let's say cognitive diffusion and how that could help someone in the context of going through a breakup, with the intention of someone who is in that situation to see like a piece of content of mine and think, oh, this is what I'm struggling with. And that sounds like it could help me. Maybe I'll follow to see
Okay.
how it could help
Okay.
me more.
Okay. So the intention shifted and became more refined with regard to understanding at the beginning there's not so much of a marketing forethought in this.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, but I think it's just this understanding, really getting in touch with intention is the very first thing I think in communication. When I'm working with anybody on public speaking, I say, well, what's the core intention here? What do you want?
Absolutely.
I want you to get this, and then everything comes from that, and you keep that in mind. That powers everything you're doing. So yeah, everybody dive into kind of what's my intention here? What would be my intention here? And then begin to work on clarifying that. Because then
Yeah.
everything comes from that. So you started out, so right at the beginning, you're sharing your journey with a view to I just want to share, and I know you have a love of learning, which I think is really important. Let's not dive into that right now. But then how did that let's talk about the whole marketing picture, because here you are, you're setting up, you've got your therapy business going, you've started doing some social media, you did that right at the start. But how did you recognize the need to address the business more formally and have a bit more of a marketing plan? Talk us through that. And then obviously you have a natural inclination towards social media, although there are entirely other ways to market your business. But talk us through your journey into getting into a more focused, sophisticated sort of marketing approach to your therapy business, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So so yeah, when I first started, I guess my intention was I'm going to share education and I'm going to make it look really pretty and have a really nice feed. And that paid off because there was like a very small company who was specifically looking to hire a hypnotherapist, and they told me that they looked at my Instagram account and they liked what they saw and they
Interesting.
hired me.
Interesting.
Um, so that was cool, and I ended
So
up
they
working
couldn't
with
have
this.
found you if you hadn't been doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have a public profile, everyone. People can't find you. Yeah.
Yes,
Fundamental principle.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really cool. And that was like, I guess, proof that it is important to have a public profile, if for those sorts of opportunities. And at that time, I think I was doing a few talking videos as well. So I was doing like pretty graphics, but then there was also, people could hear my voice and hear how I talk, and of course the type of things I talk about.
Did you have a
Um,
website and a LinkedIn page? I mean, were these also supporting that in terms of your public presence and profile?
I had a website,
Mm.
which at that time I was more invested in that than I was in my social media, funnily
Hmm.
enough. But they were both optimized. So I had my website, I was on the hypnotherapy directory. I should have said that this company found me actually on the hypnotherapy directory
And
and
then
then
checked
found
you
me.
out there. Okay.
Yeah. So I was working with them for 6 months, about 6 to 8 months, and then they actually closed down as a business. They only went down a different direction. So I suddenly ended up being completely on my own again. And that was fine because I was quite confident in my my marketing and social media to bring in clients, because this company also used Instagram solely to get their clients. So I already knew that this was a marketing platform that I could use for myself. I already had built up a following through that past 8 months, because I was still posting. And so um, but because I was like fully private, I was like, right, I need to actually take this a little bit more seriously. And so that's when I started actually thinking, okay, like I don't just want to post something from my grid to look pretty, or just post something just for the sake of posting it. I actually wanted to have, a marketing strategy behind it. And I want to learn how to do that. So that's why I invested, both time, money, and energy into learning how to specifically use social media to market yourself as a service provider.
You took a few courses, books. What did you?
Yeah, I had it was mainly like online courses, and I did like a mentorship program as well.
Okay.
Um, so I learned a lot, and yeah, I learned from like, I mean, there's, as you will know, if you've been in the online space, it's like tons and tons of people selling,
Too much now, isn't it? Yeah.
too much, I think, and that, I think it's really important to do like obviously like your due diligence with that. But I did find like reputable people to learn from. And that was actually it was incredibly helpful because um it taught me everything I knew about marketing. And obviously, as a therapist, you have to translate that marketing knowledge, you know, into marketing a therapy practice, because obviously there's like a lot of ethical and boundary concerns to
Mm.
consider. Um, but once you kind of have that figured out, then a lot of the principles are the same.
And you also had coaching with Mark Austin, is that right? And did some individual coaching with him. And
Yes.
how did that fit into the mix of as a contributing factor?
So that actually was like right at the beginning of my journey. So
Okay.
that was back in like January 2021, or
Mm.
like around that time. It was before I got hired by this like smaller company. Um, and that was more like Mark Austin doesn't like specialize in social media, but he taught me like marketing framework and like a lot of like mindset around marketing. It was a lot of mindset work actually, because I remember at the beginning I was thinking, who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for hypnotherapy? Um,
Oh, interesting.
and
Okay.
yeah,
Because I wanted to ask about that, right? Because as you were going, oh yeah, I'm going to do the marketing. And I was like, well, clearly Harriet, one, believes there's a market here. Two, believes she's got valuable services. And then, okay, I just need to figure out the marketing bit. Because this is the thing. You've got valuable services, there's a market, how going to reach the market. But some people do A, don't think they've got valuable services, B, don't believe the market's there and that
Hmm.
people will actually do the transfer of value, which is called paying for things. And clearly also, so you actually had some there was some belief issues around that for yourself even that Mark Austin helped you through, yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember a conversation I had with Mark. I think I said something along the lines of, what if no one wants to pay, for my help? And he was like, so you think there's no one who has a mental health struggle or wellness struggle that they want help with? And obviously that's not true. Like there's lots of people who, are actively seeking out help. So, I think there's this idea like no one will pay for it, no one wants it, but it's just not true. People do want it.
Okay, so everybody, I think you really need to have, self-reflection here. Do you believe there's a market for these services and that people are willing to pay for these services? That's really important. If you don't think that, then that's something to go to town on and have a look at and challenge that idea. And you've got to feel that not just intellectually, you've got to kind of emotionally feel it as well. And the other thing
Mm,
is that you've got valuable services. So that,
mm.
look, I've got services here that could help people. Were you fairly confident in that, or did so Mark helped you see the market potential that you didn't quite believe in? What about the sense I've got valuable services?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty lucky in that when I got hired by this company, I could see that people were benefiting from my support, and that's what they wanted. So that was, I guess, like quite good timing
So you
for
had
that.
experience. I have you had experience that
Yeah,
this works and this can help people.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
So,
second big tip, everyone. I just want to pull that out because we've been doing a lot of work on this. That I'm gonna is that it's really important. You get to do case studies, but immediately continue seeing people after your case studies, and is a number one tip we're coming forward with now. Even if they're not paying necessarily, the important thing is you have that experience, people can benefit from this, yeah, and that's
mm,
going to drive your I've got valuable services, I can help people, there's a market here that's willing to pay. That's what provides your drive to get into the marketing and the belief to get into the marketing.
for sure. I probably shared this before as well, but I think my second ever client, um, before I got hired by this company, she came to me for a fear of driving. And I remember I had I was quite interested in working with phobias, and I think phobias is a really good niche as a hypnotherapist because people think of phobias when they think of hypnotherapy or the other way around. Um, and but I remember thinking like, oh, is it that much of a like, is it that valuable for people to like cure their phobia? Um, I'm going to shut this off. Is it that valuable for people to like cure their phobia? Like what's like the big deal here? And so when someone came to me for a fear of driving, I mean, when I was doing the assessment with her and I was trying to understand, like, why is this a problem for you? Like, and she said, well, it's a problem because I can't drive my kids to school. I can't drive my kids to the beach. And that was like the problem. And that's such a meaningful thing to get help with,
Mm,
for her family, for her children. And that was something where I was like, wow, like actually no, like, this is such a valuable service. Like I just had 6 sessions with her and she was back in the car, feeling confident, driving her kids places, and that's pretty profound actually.
that's huge, isn't it? It's huge. I had somebody had fear of flying, and he said, so to go to see my family in Cyprus, I have to take the train and then the boat, and it's like it's a huge thing, so I don't see them.
Yeah, yeah. And like, like let's say like another one that may sound like trivial, but like nail biting, right? Like
Mm,
you may think, oh, that's a trivial issue to have. People aren't going to pay for that. But actually, if you struggle with like nail biting and you're constantly covering your hands, and then it gets to summer and you're like, what am I gonna wear? Because I don't want to wear long sleeves, but also I can't have my hands on show. I'm embarrassed. That's like, imagine how like you can just see how profound it would
okay.
be to help someone stop that habit. It's not trivial at all. It's just it's really valuable when you think about the problem underneath the presenting problem.
and the impact on their sense of confidence, self-esteem, like I can't control this, and so I'm useless, and all this stuff that
Yeah.
gets connected with it. So yeah, I think, I mean, our point here is, and is that there are some fundamental beliefs, or maybe limiting ideas that will hold us back, and we need to recognize them, bring them up to the surface, and tackle them.
Mm,
Is there a market for my services? Do I have valuable services? Can I deliver them? Will people value them? That's if you don't have that there, then any marketing efforts are going to be very, very insipid and not committed. And
mm,
one thing I think is commitment. Yeah. So you have to have that belief. Yeah.
yeah.
That marketing is worthwhile because I've got services and people can be helped and they'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And then you can really commit into marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can even just go on like Reddit to, and typing like the issue, type in Google the issue that you want to work with, then put Reddit, and you'll find forums of people, talking about their struggle and why it's a struggle. And what you're really wanting to focus on is the why is it a struggle? And what would it mean for this to not exist in their life? Like what would the impact be if they didn't have a fear of flying? What would that mean for them? That's
So
going to really,
Reddit, what are some other areas? I mean, Reddit, Mumsnet, sometimes I think
yeah,
there's lots of stuff on there. Morag found people on Facebook groups for her when people with hair pulling and skin picking, dermatillomania and
yeah.
trichotillomania issues, and got into those communities to see just how large they were and what an issue it was. So,
Yeah, TikTok. Like you type in the thing you want to work with on TikTok, see if you'll probably find someone's made a video about it and it's got a million views, and then you'll see all the comments underneath with people being like,
oh,
I
so look at the
have this.
comments. Look at the comments. Yeah,
Look
yeah.
at the comments. And then you'll see that belief of actually, no, this is something that could really change someone's life will become more apparent. And it's not in a cheesy way, it's in an actual literal way. Like this actually could change someone's life if they got help with this.
And again, to have the experience of changing people's lives by continuing the case, even if you're doing some voluntary, non-paid or very, nominally paid, you're having the experience that I can help change people's lives. And you need to
Exactly.
have that experience as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, I want to dive into some of the social media stuff in more depth, but I want to say right at the beginning, in case I forget, we talked about you going out there and you took a number of different courses and things like that. And then I know you got your whole social media going, and we invited you in, and you did a webinar that blew people away. And we have that recorded in the professional members hub, which everybody gets when they take the diploma. And I think we've done another webinar on that, and now you've created a course as well. Let's just mention that before we forget it, because there are lots and lots of courses and opportunities and things you can read and books and all sorts of stuff. And some of that's going to work for therapists, some's not, some's good, but you've put all the best together in a course very focused for therapists. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So, um, something that really tremendously helped me when I got serious about marketing on social media was having a content strategy, which sounds like really big and complicated, but actually it made my life so much easier. And so I shared this webinar and I pretty much like shared like the entire strategy. I didn't hold it anything back. And I should exactly like if you want to feel confident with your social media, know exactly what you're posting, feel confident that it's going to like attract people in, this is what you need to do. And so that webinar is still alive because I shared everything.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I shared it with some people outside of the profession who kind of struggling with social media, and then we goes, "Oh my God, that woman is a genius. She is a genius." So, yeah, that webinar's there in the professional hub. And if anybody wants to see it, we can make that available to you as well. But then, yeah, so you then went on to develop, because I mean the webinar was great, but people needed more introduction to the platforms, how to get started, and how to record, film,
Ex
produce,
yeah.
etc. Yeah.
So I had so many comments after that webinar, of people wanting to know more. So I just created a 6-week group program, um, that was capped at 10 people, and I filled all 10 spaces, and I recorded each session, and I added that to like a platform, Now it's on the college's platform. And then I also created like additional tutorials when it comes to like editing and like just like helpful things that will like help you when it comes to, like actually creating content. But the core of the work was the intention behind your social media, understanding that your like ideal client, which essentially is just the type of client that you want to work with, because it's okay to not want to work with everyone. You won't be able to work with everyone. Not everyone is going to want to work with you, and that's okay, right? You're gonna have like a specific client like avatar in mind, and that's the kind of person you're gonna want to be talking to. And of course, there's going to be a specific presenting problem that you'll be like you have a special interest in, and that all your marketing will be around that. So in the social media foundations course, I break down into like even more detail exactly what you need to think about to create different types of content with your ideal client in mind.
Fantastic. So, I mean, that's like a thorough, like A to Z of everything.
Yeah.
And you can come in, not know anything, and Harriet's going to take you through that. And that is, but let's also talk about, we have the webinars that are available that have been done before. And also you're doing once a month, you're doing free social media coaching sessions in the professional hub. Let me just explain that for those of you who aren't signed up with us, is that when you sign up to take our diploma program, you get 12 months membership of our professional Hypno-CBT hub, which is where everyone hangs out and supports each other. And we have a lot of free events going on each month there, and a whole archive of events that you can access. And so Harriet runs social media coaching once a month there. So, and we used to call it social media audit, where you'd actually look at people's social media profiles and give them feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, we still do.
Okay, good.
Um, but we've actually optimized it from last month, which is really cool. So the social media audit will always be on the third, will mostly be on the third week of the month. So at the beginning of every month, I actually create an additional like mini tutorial that will be very actionable. So I will explain like a marketing concept, and then I'll give you like an action point that you can do, and then you can bring that piece of content to the session, and then I can look at it and give you feedback. But it's not just me giving you feedback, it will also be everyone else in the on the call, which sounds really scary. And it is really scary. It's really vulnerable. And I get that. And I say it every time I say like it's so courageous to do that. But of course it is a safe space. And everyone, it's really helpful to get other people's perception of your content and how they're reading it, because that's going to inform how other people are going to read it when you publish it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So that's, if you're a member of the Professional Hub, make sure you turn up for those things and make sure you access those free webinars. Harriet's course you do need to pay for because it is so in depth. I think the public price for it is £895, but the membership rate is much, 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 much less.
Much lower.
Much less. So have a look at that. But you don't need to do that. You can also access the free content. That's going to work really well too. However, we've jumped ahead of ourselves here, but I just wanted to make sure we got that in. Let's come back round. You got into doing social media marketing. You picked a market, you went for it, and I know, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but let's just give a sense of, I remember connecting with you. You got 15,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram by then. I'm not sure if
Yes.
that's changed now, because I know things have changed as well, which we could talk about too. But let's just talk about that. Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about what your numbers are now, but also how you built your numbers up and picked your niche.
Yeah. So I originally was working with binge eating because the company that found me, their niche was binge eating. So they were looking to hire specifically a hypnotherapist. Um, they also had other like professionals working in the team. So I ended up doing a lot of training in binge eating. I actually ended up doing an eating disorder practitioner diploma, but I still kept my services just to binge eating, because obviously you need to be really careful with eating disorders. I mean, it can easily go outside of your sphere of competence. So I kept a binge eating. And when I left, well, when I left that company, it just made sense for me to market myself as a binge eating therapist. So that's what I did. And I had worked with so many clients at this point, like almost 100. So I knew I was very experienced, and I'd done so much training. So I found it relatively easy to talk about, like there's endless of things to talk about from lots of different angles. And unfortunately, it is, unfortunately for people struggling with it, it's a very in demand thing to get help with. A lot of people struggle with their relationship with food. So there was a demand for it. And when I was creating content about it, again, I say unfortunately because I hate the fact that so many people struggle with this, but people were relating with the things that I was saying and things that I was sharing and found it really helpful, and wanted to know more. So I guess that was my first thing. I was working with an area that a lot of people needed help with.
And you picked TikTok and Instagram. You didn't go Facebook and YouTube or LinkedIn. And yeah.
I picked TikTok and Instagram mainly because the kind of content I was creating, I wanted to be able to repurpose it and use it for both platforms. And so for creating like a video of you talking, or like any sort of like video content, that works really well for both TikTok and Instagram, and you don't have to duplicate anything. Obviously YouTube is long form content, the format is different. So it would have just been extra effort. Facebook, the reason why you can automatically have everything you post on Instagram go to Facebook. So if you're wanting to market yourself on Facebook, I would say you might as well market yourself on Instagram and then just cross post everything.
Mm.
But I work with, I would say, like 20 to 35-year-olds. They're mostly on Instagram or TikTok. So that's why I think when I talk about like your ideal client, one of the factors you're going to want to think about is like, what is the age of the kind of client I want to work with? Because a 25-year-old is going to be consuming, like, I guess, marketing stuff in a different place, in a different way to a 55-year-old.
Mm.
Your 55-year-old may be on Facebook, but your 25-year-old will 100% be on Instagram or TikTok. I can tell you that for a fact.
Interesting. Okay, fantastic. So, let's just talk about what your actual content schedule, just so people get a sense of like what you were doing. Do you want to talk us through it? You say you used to say, I think you wrote, filmed, edited. You spend 2 days a week doing your social media, yeah?
Yeah, so at that time, I kind of had like I could basically plan my content for the year, because what I did, which I found really helpful, was every month I had like a different theme for the month. So there'll be like one kind of broadish topic. Um, like when I was working with binge eating in the summer, I'd always talk about body image. Because body image is such a struggle in the summer when you're struggling with something like that. So it could be talking about, the topic could be going on holiday, wearing having to wear shorts or something like that. And then that would be like my broad-ish topic for the month. And then I would break down that topic into 4 subtopics. And now that would be each subtopic would represent a different week. And then I would use that subtopic and break it down into different angles. So maybe on Monday, I would talk about like the symptoms around that topic. Maybe on the Tuesday, I would talk about the things that people are doing to help themselves that aren't working. Call it mistake awareness, but I feel like when you say you're making this mistake, it sounds a bit blame and shamey.
Mm.
But like for marketing purposes, like I call it mistake awareness. But I just want to be clear, it's not that people are just out there making mistakes. It's just that they're trying things thinking they will work, and it's just not working. So I'm here to be like, this is why this could not be working for you, and here's a different way.
Okay.
So I hope people are like catching on to like my drift. I'm just breaking everything down, and then I'm exploring like one topic from like lots of different angles. And that's a way that you can keep consistent with your marketing and with your message and with your content without having to generate a new idea every day or reinvent the wheel. Like you don't have to do it at all. You can talk about one thing and you can talk about it from like so many different angles.
Yeah, Harry has a brilliant approach for this, how to break it down. So you take it and just like, and you can make your content calendar for the whole year. So basically, you know what you want to eat for it at the start of the month. You know what your theme is, and you know the different ways you're going to approach it, and then that creates your plan for your 20 videos. Is that right? So you end up writing and then filming 20 short videos. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How long is each one, roughly? I mean, what's the length?
So each video these days is like a minute 20 to 2 minutes long.
Okay.
Um, and you end up repeating yourself a lot, and that's good. I think that's another fear people have. Like, will I be too repetitive? Are people gonna get bored of me? I, as you know, if you go on social media, you watch something, and then most of the time, 10 seconds later, you're like, what did I just watch? Right? Because you're consuming so much. So actually, it's really important to repeat yourself because you might say one thing one way and it doesn't really land, but then you say it the next day in a different way, and it's like, oh my God,
Well, I
that
need
has
to
just
hear
clicked for
this. I need
me.
to hear this because I like, oh, I've done that, so I can't do that again. But actually, I
You
could
can
do
do it
it again.
again.
Yeah, and
Like,
again,
and
and
again and
again,
again.
and again.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Okay. So, so we're building up a few ideas here. One, don't repeat. Repeat some of this core, powerful stuff. Two, be open. Yeah. I mean, be authentic, be real. Don't be this sort of all polished professional therapist. People want to meet a real person, right? And you were doing
Yeah.
right from the beginning with your sharing your journey. Um, believe there's a market there and that you've got services to offer. That these things need to be there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess like with like my past, I think that's another thing that people worry about it, sharing my personal life is that because I think when you think of therapists, you're like they're a blank slate and you don't know anything about them, and that's how it should be. Um, and I think that again, 2025, people don't necessarily want a blank slate therapist. They want a human. But of course, there still are those professional boundaries. And how I navigate that is I
Hmm.
pick three things I'm going to share about my life. One of those things is what book I'm reading. So I
Okay.
share, I have a goal this
Okay.
year to
Okay. I
read a
like
different
this.
book.
Because I think this issue about, I think I
Yeah,
struggle with this, thinking about, okay, how am I going to boundary this? I want to appear real. And I am real. I'm not, but how am I going to boundary this? I don't want to be filming my avocado toast in the morning or whatever,
yeah,
So, okay. So what book I'm reading? I love that. Yeah.
yeah. So I have a goal to read a book every week in 2025. So for me, it's like so easy. Like that's just something I can share every week. This is the book I'm reading. And then I
Well, that's a
finished the
nice
book and
journey,
it's
and that's a
great.
journey people can follow you on, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. And I guess the way I was to think about it is that, you know, the client, because you have to remember that the therapeutic relationship is one of the most important things, right?
Hmm.
Important, and it predict, a strong therapeutic relationship can predict therapeutic success. So how I think of it as well is a client who also likes to read and maybe is interested in the same like genres that I am, we're probably going to get on. Like we're going to have
Okay.
something in
Okay.
common, and we won't talk about books necessarily in session, but I think that will probably, put us on a good standing to build a really strong therapeutic relationship.
And finding the sort of client, well, yeah, and yeah, you got shared values, interests, approach. Yeah.
Yeah, shared
Yeah.
values, interest approach. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like another thing I really like to share is
Mm.
like drinking my coffee or drinking like my matcha. So like call it like my hot drink. My hot drink of the day. And like that's like a really nice way to be like, I'm human too. I drink coffee or I like to go to cafes, and you can just share like a nice little message with that. And it's something so little. Like, it's not hard for me to take that photo because that's something that I do every day. And it's just a nice visual, but it also does show that I am a human being and I like to go to cafes and drink coffee. Like it seems so insignificant, but it is relatable because other people like to do that as well.
Mm. And you're not sharing some big therapy thing while you're doing it. You're literally like, here's my coffee, and
Yeah. exactly. And then the third thing that I've chosen to share
Mhm.
is my love of cats. And I don't even have a cat yet. I soon want to be a cat mother. But and then when I am, that my cat will be like featured on my Instagram. And again, it's a way like, if you're a cat lover, then you're probably going to get on with other cat lovers. And again, it's just something so small but easy to share. And then that's it. That's all. That's pretty much all. If you go,
Oh, you're frozen there. Is that just me, or is he frozen for is Harriet frozen? Oh, you're back.
sorry, I'm back. We had a power outage, but I've got another Wi-Fi device.
Okay.
Can you hear me
Yeah,
and see
yeah,
me
yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was saying I pick three things, I share that, and then the rest of my life, I do not share. It's very actually quite private. So if you're worried about that, it doesn't have to be an issue.
So would you recommend that in terms of people's plan is say make a plan to share something personal that's not necessarily from the therapy thing, although your books might be, but that reveals you as a human being, but then really make a plan and boundary it tightly so that you can easily share personal content that's not too deep, but is well boundaried. Yeah.
I would, for ethical reasons, because I guess like the thing that I'm actually most concerned about is the clients that I'm currently working with. And I
Mm.
don't want my Instagram to affect our relationship. So I actually have it in my therapeutic agreement that I actually recommend you unfollow me once we start working together. Um, if you would want to, like if you can of course follow me and we can stay connected, but actually it may be more helpful if you unfollow for the time that we're working with each other, just so that we can keep our therapeutic relationship just between you and me in the time that we have. And a lot of other therapists do that as well, just to
That's
protect the
interesting.
therapeutic relationship. Yeah.
That's interesting because otherwise, they're meeting you here and getting this much broader picture of you but then they're getting this more slightly more curated picture on social media that then not conflict, but just distorts perhaps a little bit that
Yeah,
what can really develop in the therapy session. Because obviously you're more than that, but you're only revealing that on social media.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
interesting. It's very interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I don't bring anything into on like my social media that a client has said. Um, if I do share anything, it's been paraphrased a million times to protect and honor like my clients' like privacy. Um, and I rarely actually post reviews and testimonials these days. It hasn't affected my business at all. Even though I have tons of testimonials, but again, like just to like be like ethical online is something that I am just more precious about.
I mean, it's a challenging thing, isn't it? Because you want to. It will be so valuable to share what this person went through because other people could see it. So, how do you navigate that when there's such a wealth of inspiring material that could provide deep hope to people,
Mm.
and yet you want to protect the confidentiality as well? So, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very boundaried about sharing anything specific about a client that I've worked with. I just like won't do it. If I do give examples, like I said, it's just very paraphrased, like to the point where, it's like if you've ever read a book written by a therapist who's like shared like their clients' experiences, they normally will give a disclaimer at the beginning that actually what they're sharing is like blended client experiences. Um, and they changed the name and like some of the key details to protect like just the client's data. And so I pretty much take that same stance. But when I'm talking about something like a presenting issue in a context and talking about the symptoms and all of that, I just use a lot, I just ensure to include like nuance. So I won't talking absolutes. I won't say, if you do this, you will cure your anxiety forever and ever. Like I would never say anything like that. Um, and even just the power of saying like this can help. Or, I invite you to give this a try. It's just more using more softer language. It's more of like an invitation versus, you have to do this because if you don't, like, you're screwed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just still thinking through the anonymizing thing. I just think that's yeah. So respect on that, and the way also you're boundarying yourself, and then when they get into working with you and not having them follow you, I think that's great. So let's talk a little bit more about, we've called that you've called this what's our title here again? Um uh Visibility, transformation, and growth. I can't remember what it was.
I think that's it.
That's it. So let's talk about your own, because we've talked a little bit about limiting beliefs, yeah? And I want to get into this a little bit more in terms of your own personal growth that you went through just through doing social media. And
Mm,
and as you've been coaching people, both doing the social media work, but you're also coaching therapists as well. Our therapists, they go through what what sort of challenges do they face, and what sort of growth can they go through? Because in a little way, you're saying, look, this can be a vehicle for your own personal growth that can actually have lots of spin-offs into other areas by overcoming certain stuff here that holds you back from doing social media and dealing with the stuff that comes
yeah,
up. This can actually be a pathway for personal growth. So could we unpack that a bit?
absolutely. So I guess I'll start off by saying that, if you're posting yourself online, it is really scary, right? It's a really vulnerable thing to do. And, you know, I think that can come with lots of like, intrusive thoughts or like limiting beliefs about, oh, I don't deserve to be online. Who would want to hear from me? Or what if I mess up? What if people judge me? What if I get a negative comment? You could just keep going round and round with that. And I think in order to, create, I guess, protection with yourself with that, you have to believe in yourself and you have to realize that you do have something important to say. And it's okay if someone doesn't agree with you. I think it's okay if someone looks at your video and it's like, I'm going to keep scrolling. And I think a lot of people get very caught up in like metrics and like followers and views. I'll tell you now that I've had clients who like inquire from a video that's got 300 views. Like I don't go viral. I don't even go baby viral. You can look at my metrics, like it's pretty modest, but I still get clients who inquire. Um, and I guess what I'm trying to say is like, you can get so caught up with like the vanity of it and like what people think, but actually none of that stuff has to matter. And the way I think you can figure that out is by trying, by putting yourself out there and like, I guess doing those behavioral experiments.
So not to be tracking so much on, I mean, not to be aiming to have these things go viral anyway, because that's not, it might not be go viral in the way that's going to help, but not to be fretting over the number of likes or views or comments. Or I think you've frozen there for a second. So there's that aspect. While you unfreeze, I'm sure that's going to come back in a second. And the other is dealing with comments that might come up. So, oh, here you are. You're back.
Sorry, I'm
That's
back.
okay. So you're saying don't fret and obsess over number of views or likes too much. Don't focus on having something go massively viral. Um, that's not the point, right?
Yeah, like when you first start, I'll be honest with you, and this happens to like most majority of like new accounts, is that your post will get like 3 likes. And if I follow you, one of them will be from me. Right? Um, and I would say like if your intention within like your first 6 months online is I want to have loads of people follow me, I want to get all of this engagement, you're probably going to be disappointed. That's just, I think, the truth of it. I think instead, if you focus on like coming back to that intention of, why am I doing this? Um, what message am I going to share? What development can I get out of this by like practicing speaking clearly and speaking about a topic that I'm passionate about and helping people with? Can I see this as just like I'm learning a new skill and I'm practicing and I'm doing something really
Mm,
brave and
mm, mm.
vulnerable? then
So,
you can't
okay,
lose.
yeah, there's this isn't something that you just do for 3 months and there it is. It's going to takes a bit more time to to cook this dish and get it working, right? And
Yes.
secondly, you're figuring a lot of stuff out, both in terms of content, but also technical process, right? Because I mean, to get this into a smooth workflow so that you can just immediately like create something and publish it, it takes a while, right?
Yeah, it's a whole different skill. And I think marketing is a fantastic skill to learn. So I know that a lot of people who DM me who are thinking about starting the course, because I do get that and I welcome it. If you ever want to have a chat, I'm happy to like, I always give you like an honest and authentic um I guess review of my experience. Um, but a lot of people say, where was I going with that? Mark, do you know where I was going with
Well,
that?
I was just saying there's quite a lot of stuff to figure out here and the technical stuff and how to,
Oh,
so you can get in the place where you can make a really, it doesn't have a super high professional, but an effective communication piece quite quickly and easily because you've figured out a lot of the technical stuff and how to present yourself and how to talk clearly, make eye
yes,
contact.
that's what I was saying. Because people were saying, is it really hard to start a business? And my answer is yes, it is hard. You do need to learn a skill. You do need to put effort into that. But it could be one of the best things you do, alongside getting this qualification. I mean, learning how to present in front of a group of people, that's an amazing skill that you can take anywhere. Learning how to market yourself, that can help you with so many things beyond like just your business. And like your therapy practice, like it I think learning the skill set is hard, but it's hard because it's valuable. And so I think if that can be like your motivator in getting through this is hard and this is going to take me like a long time. I mean, that's how it worked for me. I was thinking, I know this is going to pay off, and it is paying off, and it's continuing to pay off.
How long did it take for your investment in the social media stuff to pay off? Because you got some clients because you work for this other company, you have your
Yeah.
website up, you have the hypnotherapy director as well. How long did it take for you, and how much effort do you have to put in for the social media stuff to really start to pay off?
Yeah. So I hope no one's disappointed by this answer, but like for me, it was a bit different because I had a following even when I was working for this company. And so I had people who wanted to work with me,
That's because you'd started earlier sharing your journey.
but I started earlier. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
I would say realistically a year.
Okay.
You will when you start, you will get clients way before that. You could get client in your first month. But I would say for it to feel like like you're getting steady inquiries and you're feeling comfortable and you're feeling confident and you've got a plan, I would say a year because you're learning a whole new skill set.
But you're saying that so one thing one you're learning the skill set of how to do therapy here. That's the main training.
Yeah.
But the second thing you're learning basically how to market your professional services. In this case, and I want to address this for a second, the channel of social media, because there are other pathways to market that I don't want to talk about so people can see we focused in on this one here. But you're saying there that in learning to market your professional services and all that takes in terms of also the psychological stuff we've got to overcome, but then all the technical and professional skills we bring to that's just hugely valuable in its own. And I want to emphasize this that you'll probably never go back and work for anybody else. Once you figure out how to market your professional services and the services here in a market here, you'll never go back to work for anybody else because you've got the basically, well, why would I? Right?
Yeah, precisely. Like if I ever decided I didn't want to be a therapist, which I doubt that will happen like anytime soon, but I know that I feel quite confident that I could open up another business doing something else. Don't know what, but if I
Yeah.
had an idea, I
Looking
could do
after
it.
cats or interior design. I mean, basically, if I've got a service here that I really want to offer people, you know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And just like, it's really cool. Like, I mean, I think I know that's very subjective, but when I meet new people and I say like, oh, I have an Instagram account, and they look at it like, wow, this is this is cool. And I agree. I'm like, yeah, this is cool, right? Like I create this content and I put it out there and it helps people from all around the world. Like I think that's pretty cool.
So let's talk about issues of the things like, what might hold people back from doing this. Yeah. So
Mm,
and I want to come back to those pathways to the market in a minute as well. But shyness, yeah, for example, did you
shyness.
have to overcome shyness?
A little bit. I mean, doing the course itself, right? Like doing the hypnotherapy course was one of my, I guess, my first behavioral experiment. Not that I knew that that's what that was at that time, but taking, that, I guess, like financial risk and believing in myself and knowing that, you know, if I get through this course, I'm gonna have to like start a business. So making that decision right at the very beginning, I guess that was my first like hurdle. And
In terms
that
of
was
self-belief, yeah.
in terms of self-belief. So I was like, okay, I did that and I proved to myself, okay, and I'm doing it. I'm doing the course. And, throughout the course, you obviously go to the practice sessions and you meet new people and you're practicing. And that I remember being terrified for those practice sessions.
Were you?
Um, oh yeah, like I found them really scary. And I remember like when you're a stage one student and you get assigned with a stage three student, and you're like, oh my God, like they're gonna think I'm pathetic. Obviously, no one does. But I have like some of my
Interesting.
students say
Interesting.
that to me. They're like, "Oh my God, I got paired with someone who's like nearly done, and I'm in my first week." But that there's a huge benefit to that because you learn from people. But anyway, my point is like there was multiple points across even just doing the diploma, which I was outside of my comfort zone, like doing the case studies. Oh my goodness, like that was terrifying. But I did it, and I actually had one of my case study. No, I had two of them. I had two of my case study volunteers waiting to work with me once I was qualified. So I was like, uh-huh,
Ah,
okay,
it works. Yeah. Well, this is why I said it's so important you have real world experience, even if it's non-paid, if it's voluntary, that the stuff works, right?
exactly. Um, so that really helped in like, I guess, my confidence in what I was talking about. And like I guess what you were saying, like we were talking right at the beginning, like confidence and belief in what you're actually offering. So I knew I had something of value to offer.
From
I
from
was quali
from the practice session experience and then doing the case studies. Yeah.
Yes, and then of course, like yeah, all the theory that you learn the online course. Um, so I felt confident in what I was talking about. Um,
And did let me just ask, so you're talking about the experience of doing it, but what about the exercise on the course? Were there any particular things that you learned or exercise that you did that also built that self-belief, overcame shyness, overcame any of the limiting beliefs that might have held you back from being able to
yeah.
confidently market your services?
Well, I'm a big lover of cognitive diffusion. So like leaves on the stream, which is like the stage one exercise, like the first thing you learn. Is something, well, 5 years later that I'm still actively using. And like, I've dived into that skill, um, very deeply since, done a lot of app training. So um that's leaves on the stream and like diffusion is something that I really love. But then also like, tension release, being relaxed before recording. I always make sure that I'm in like a good mood and I'm in a relaxed state. Because if you ever try and film a video of yourself when you're stressed and when you're anxious, you're gonna stutter, you're going to say things and it comes out like not how you thought it was going to come out, and then you end up spending 20 minutes doing a 30-second clip.
So very specifically releasing tension in the muscles and putting yourself in a good state. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess like, like just suggestions of I deserve to be here. Like I have a voice and um people will appreciate what I have to say and I appreciate what I have to say. Just I guess like those like very encouraging suggestions.
So did you write a self-hypnosis script for yourself that actually, oh, cool.
I did that a lot. I wrote so many scripts myself, and
I this is
I
that, you
still
know,
do.
I know people like the mindfulness and the diffusion, but I am fundamentally far more into people actually telling a new story and using the power of hypnosis, their imagination, to actually
Mm,
craft the set of beliefs and experiences they want to have. And
yeah,
really using that. So yeah.
yeah.
Now somebody's put in here, Lucy said, I think we need to make a practice session to train doing your first Instagram post. Yes, I think so. The point here is that I want to come round to is to really use these practice sessions and all the practical experiences on the course and the opportunity to do self work like self hypnosis on the course and diffusion, mindfulness on the stuff that's holding you back. So, yes, absolutely bring up your fears about doing an Instagram post as one of the things you're going to work on as an issue, right? So, list all your issues and then work on them as the content, as for the practical sessions.
Yeah, and I'm really happy for anyone to like write what there's if you feel comfortable or in the Q&A, like what specifically you're afraid of, because I'm interested if that's something that I struggled with, and then I can actually talk from experience, or I can talk about it like more generally. But if anyone here wants to do that, we obviously welcome that in the space.
So, yeah, absolutely. And we really want to gather more information on that. So let's cast this all in a bigger frame and then come back round because we have been training therapists for over 20 years and over 3,000 people have gone through the program. And all the time, you know, some people don't complete the program. Some people can complete the program, don't get the qualification. Some people get the qualification, but they don't set up in practice. Some people set up in practice, but they don't succeed. And we want to work. We're trying to figure out all the time why can't we get the people all the way through to being successful therapists with busy, thriving practices that are helping thousands of people. And we've constantly been working on that over the years. And we've added lots of business support in, and then people don't take that up. And it's like, and Harriet's been doing her social media, but people don't take that up. And we're like, well, what do we need to do? So we've done a big deep dive on this, and we've redone everything to understand there are actually three fundamental pathways through this experience training, and you'll see this is exactly what we've been talking about with Harriet here. One is learning the clinical skills, yeah, and all the diploma training. That's the obvious one. The second one is your own personal growth, and this means
Mm,
particularly tackling the limiting beliefs that you have, whether that's self-belief generally and self-confidence or self-esteem, whether it's more specific, I'm not sure there's a market there, whether it's, oh, my shyness about doing Instagram post, whatever it is, there is a series of things that are going to hold you back, and you want to make those as explicit as possible, not find out in 3 years' time there's an underlying belief that held you back.
mm,
Let's get it explicit and on the table now so we can actually target that in the diploma, and you can work on that in the diploma. And the third thing, the third pathway, so there's the clinical skills diploma training, there's your own personal growth and transformation, and you can use the tools from the course to work on that and the practice sessions. And then the third thing is business know-how, business
mm,
skills, marketing, business knowledge and skills, and marketing. And so
mhm,
we've created a business planning process. We've created a marketing planning process, and really thorough documents and process around that. And we've also created an inventory of limiting beliefs. So as you start to work in your business plan, your marketing, all this stuff comes up, and don't avoid it. Notice what you're avoiding and put it into your list of stuff. And probably it'll be on our there are 60 limiting beliefs across 12 different domains that we've developed in our inventory. And basically, as you go through that, you'll probably see like all the stuff that Harriet's mentioned here that she had going on, not thinking there was a market or whatever. And that's all listed in there. So you'll recognize it all and see, oh,
mm,
it's quite normal to have this. Um, but then go to town on it. It can change. It could change. And to speak to that marketing process, so we created, Harriet's talking here about social media marketing, but there are in that in what we created there, we've mapped out 9 different pathways to the market. And so, for example, I did search engine optimization. That was my thing. I mean, that's all I did pretty much. I think I was a bit shy about doing anything else. And also social media wasn't such a thing at that point in time. So I just did search engine optimization. I know people like Emma who only did personal referral. She just focused on referral and built everything around personal referral. And that was her intention. And everything was around asking for referrals and everything. She had an all referral practice. So there are
Mm.
different other people have done well, and Harriet at the beginning did more of a partnership. Yeah, she partnered with this company, and that's how it worked. So there are 9 different pathways to the market. Social media is one of them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just so you understand, there's lots of options there. And when you get into the process, which you will do, and some of you have already started this, you meet with your coach like Harriet, and you'll go through and start your business plan, and then you'll look at these 6 foundations that you need, and the 9 pathways to the market, and you'll begin to pick out, okay, which ones I'm going to do. And as you do all that, you're going to have limiting beliefs come up, and your coach should help you find those, notice them, challenge them, and put them on your list to work on during the course. So
Yeah.
that's we're calling this the Hypno-CBT Helix because there are 3 pathways through this and they all interact together. And
Mm.
we've created a very cool way of doing that all together. So, and here you are, and noticing, I want you to, what comes up for you as you think about doing social media marketing, as we've been
Mm.
talking about it now. And you could put that in the chat maybe and share what comes up. So somebody said in the Q&A, I struggle with doing videos because of my size and fear of negative judgment.
Mm.
Okay, a wonderful anonymous attendee for sharing that. But Harriet, what would you speak to anonymous attendee here who's saying, I struggle with doing videos because of my size and fear of negative judgment?
Yeah. Like thank you for sharing that. I mean, what immediately comes to mind, like when you go on the thing I love about social media, especially TikTok, I feel like Instagram is a bit more like embellished, but TikTok feels a bit more authentic and real. But you're gonna find people of all doing all sorts, including therapists of all shapes and sizes, right? All different accents, um, you know, just completely different people. And I think I would say like finding that, working on that self-acceptance for yourself, that's going to help you get out there and even realize that, a lot of people, a lot of people won't care about that. Like they don't care what I look like. They care about the message that you share. Um, I think I'd say that in general for fear of judgment, like we're all vulnerable of getting judged negatively. And some people will judge you negatively. That's
So I mean, there's the fear of what people might think but don't say, right?
uh-huh.
And the second
Yeah.
thing is then the fear of actually, what if you get a whole bunch of people making really negative body shaming comments, which they do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they do.
So let's how we're going to tackle that. So, you know, I mean that could happen. And then are we going to collapse or what?
Yeah. I mean, there's practical ways and then there's like the inner work. Um, so
Well, let's talk about using the course to tackle that. How could you tackle that if you're taking the diploma and you recognize,
mm,
wow, I'm avoiding doing all of this because of
yeah. Well, it sounds like I think fear of like negative judgment and what that will mean sounds to me like getting caught up in thoughts, right? And getting caught up in this idea of like what will happen and this like I guess like this narrative behind that. And so as we all know, if I've mentioned it like 1,000 times, cognitive diffusion, we learned that in stage 1. Like even starting to just like notice those thoughts and create some space there.
okay. So we can notice what those thoughts, we could distance from, observe them, and kind of dehypnotize them. Um, I'm going to suggest, so just to give, I'm going to suggest you could also do some we've actually got a really good exercise. It's not till day 7 on stage 3, right at the end of the course, on social fear and rejection. Really identify what's going on here. And then yes, do some, there's other diffusion you could do on that, which would be like People will think I'm, let's say, people will think I'm ugly. Yeah. Okay. And so you're just going to do, there's different ways of doing diffusion. I go, maybe underneath that is the belief I'm ugly. Okay, let's diffuse from that. And we'll do repeat I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly for like 60 seconds until it just becomes the sounds in your mouth. It's incredibly quick and powerful. Um, but there's another exercise called assertive defense of self where you will work with your therapist and they will role play with you that criticism and you'll learn to defend yourself against it. Saying basically, how
Exactly.
rude are you to say that? God, you're a really judgy person, aren't you? What else do you judge? So you'll actually rehearse defending yourself, and that's incredibly powerful. So all of these things can be overcome using the tools on the course.
Yeah,
And we can use it,
absolutely.
yeah. And then we can do imaginal rehearsal as well in hypnosis. And then you can
Mm,
reinforce all of these things through doing a self-hypnosis script. Going, I no longer fear this judgment from these judgy people. In fact, I don't manage to judgy people. Judgy people are the least of my concerns because they're clearly highly judgmental. And why would I? They're not my heroes. So
yeah.
REBT, Gareth, what great. Yeah, some REBT. You see, there are so many tools on the course to tackle this, anonymous attendee. So also, so this is good because this I'm assuming this is the same anonymous attendee. I find myself comparing myself to others, especially when I see their posts and how amazing they are, and I struggle with the creative side. Okay, should we go to town on that, Harriet?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I guess more of like a mindset thing. Like as soon as you start comparing yourself, like I guess you're creating these like assumptions that like, they're better than me. They're better than me. If their post is good, that means my content's bad. And I think it's really important to notice and understand, I guess, like that thinking behavior. And I guess that's where we're getting more into like CBT of understanding like the
Mm,
types of thinking and just recognizing it
mm.
as a pattern. Um, and I think another part of it is,
So just
I
to
guess
just to
get
come back just to come back to that, let's get so
yeah,
this comparison thinking, we could really go to town on that and notice. We could just look and say, do cost benefit analysis on comparing myself to others type of thinking, really get that established and get have the experience like that is totally useless, fruitless, low value stuff to compare myself to others. And then the
mm,
person can do basically recognize, oh, I'm doing that comparing myself to others thing. Okay. And do some thought stopping and switching or whatever. Yeah.
mm,
So, I mean, there is just 20 ways into this. Once you get into the course, we could do RABT. Person's thinking, I must be better than others. And why should I have to be better than others? I can be.
mm,
So that there's just on the comparison stuff, we could really nail that style of thinking down and notice, catch, interrupt it, switch it. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Uh,
But then with the creativity side, I think
yeah.
that's like a personal journey, isn't it? And like I guess understanding like what is your taste, right? What content do you like? What do you want to create? I think when you're on social media, there's a real risk of I'm just going to do what everyone else is doing. Oh, they made a post like that.
Mm,
I'm just going to do the
mm,
same. Do
mm.
you actually want to do that though? Like, does that feel like congruent to you? Because if it doesn't, that's going to stunt your creativity.
So I just think there's something here. One, you can start to see everybody that by getting into this, you can really a fears and limiting beliefs. But the other idea here is what does it mean to really tap into and experience your own creativity? And what would that do for you and your self-belief, self-esteem, and of course for the world at large? So I think that's really something interesting in there in terms of this being a journey into your creativity.
Yeah.
And I think that's See, for me, I mean, from my kind of philosophical and spiritual belief is that at our deepest essence, nature, the fundamental quality of that is freedom and creativity. That's
Mm,
why everything exists. Yeah. So, I mean, that's our divine nature is free and creative. And so, as we tap into our creativity, we're tapping into our deepest essence nature. So for me, it's like profoundly important to do that and help people do that as well.
mm.
Yeah. So wow,
Absolutely.
that's such a great journey as well on that. So anonymous attendee, that was great. Lucy says, I think I will sound cringe. Eek.
Thank you for sharing, Lucy. I think cringe is totally subjective. You there might be some people who think I'm the most cringe person they've ever met, right? Like what is cringe? Like
So
what first of all, like,
how can we overcome that?
I think I mean when you're making for me, how I see it is like if I'm creating a video to help someone with something that we've already established as like very important and profound, it could be very important and profound to them. What is cringe about that? What's cringe about me talking about a service that like can literally change people's lives? And I guess it is like challenging that perception of cringe. And also, but I want to come back, you know, if I was talking to someone about this one-on-one, I would really want to identify what cringe means because I think it could mean something very different depending on who you're talking to.
Hmm. And I think the other thing is maybe just accepting some people are not going to like you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like okay, if some people don't find it cringe, you've made something so watercolor boring that it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Um, and you know, how I always like see it is that yeah, like there's going to be people who disagree with you. There's going to be people who think you're cringe. There's going to be people who wouldn't dream of getting um you get on the social media because that's cringe, right? But I think that what people think is cringe normally comes from their own fears, their own insecurities, what their goals are. Like all of that stuff is about them. It's very personal what cringe means. So I think this is another really, really motivating and like highly like personal journey to go on to actually think, no, this is me, and I'm going to show up as me.
so there's two aspects to this. One is fear of other people judging us, but the other might be fear I'm not being really authentic, and so my content even for me feels a little bit cringe because I haven't figured out actually how to speak powerfully from my heart in an authentic way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some really good stuff to go to town here on, everybody. And again, you can really use the tools from the course, because one of the things that's going on there in the background, to come back to Gareth's suggestion of using REBT, is I must be liked by everyone,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
That is absolutely self-defeating nonsense. Yeah. I must be liked by everyone. Everyone must like me. Everyone must like all my posts. That's a crazy idea, right?
Mm. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's really difficult if that's how you go about life. Like, everyone must like me. And like that's a lot of what I work with is,
Yeah.
I must be chosen by everyone. Like I can't be rejected. Like, and I guess it's like a form of authoralizing. It's authoralizing this idea that someone might not like your content, or someone might think that you're cringe, right?
Well, somebody said to me, "Oh, I must be. I just, I got to look attractive all the time, 'cause she's aging slightly. She's missing her youthful beauty." And I said, "Why? You want everyone to want to sleep with you?" And she goes, "God, no." I go, "Well, what's it about then? What really is that about? So it was really, I think we can go to town on these issues and realize there's deeply irrational ideas that are operating us. I was sharing this with Harriet earlier. These ideas are controlling you. They're
Mm,
not your own ideas. If you actually look at them, you'll go, no, that's not true. These ideas have taken root and they're kind of controlling us. Yeah. So people used to talk
mm,
about spirit possession before, but we got idea possession. Ideas are controlling us, and we need to root them out and exorcise them from our system. Whether you do leaves on the stream or you do have experiences that forcefully show you that that's rubbish, so you
yeah,
you don't get stuck in that again. But we really need to root out these ideas that are controlling us.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. So let's have a look here. Elspeth says, I'm not on socials at all, so this may be a daft question. Okay. Well, you're putting yourself out there. Good. Can you turn comments off on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook? I know this isn't the answer to fear of judgment, but I'm just wondering.
I mean, it will be what we would call a safety seeking behavior to do that. But yes, you can turn your comments off, but I wouldn't encourage you to do that because it closes the conversation, right? Because another way to think of social media is not I'm putting something out there and it has to be approved by everyone and it has to be right and it has to be perfect. I see it more as like I'm putting something out there and I'm inviting and opening a conversation. If you want to take part in it, please comment. If you don't, keep going. That's absolutely fine. But if you close off your comments, you're basically blocking any engagement. And then that
Mm.
kind of defeats the point of social media.
And but you can hide or delete if people make nasty comments, and there are some people out there that do. You know,
Yeah.
we get all sorts of stuff when we're advertising, and I used to reply to something, and now I'm just not going to bother replying to that. I know where that's going. So, but you don't have to keep those up there, do you? Do you keep them up there, or do you just?
No, not generally. To be honest with you, I've had very, very few negative comments. And like I remember when I was doing like my binge eating, I remember I had one comment who said, "You clearly don't know what you're talking about." And I remember just laughing out loud because I was like, I have worked with so many clients, I've done so much training, and for this random person on the internet to say, I don't know, I have no idea what I'm talking about. You know, I guess because I'm confident in my ability. If someone tells me something like that, it is just words to me. Like it is just kind of laughable.
So, okay, so you haven't had that much on that. And what about anybody being kind of rude to you or things? Because Harriet's quite out there. She'll have a really big pimple coming up on here, and then she'll be going, I got a really big pimple today, and I'm doing the makeup for my social before I film my social media, but she'll film that and share it, which is really cool. Boundaries there. But anyway, so
I don't know. I don't think I do that, Mark.
you did do one. You did do one on that. Yeah, early on.
Did
You
I?
did one. Yeah, you go, yeah.
I don't know if that was me. I never do my makeup on camera.
Really? No, I'm thinking it was one of your earlier ones you were going, and it was like I was like, that's great. She's just really out there with sharing herself.
No, I mean, I don't, that's, I wouldn't, I come, something that I have done is I would happily make content like without makeup on.
Mm,
I mean, I see clients without makeup on.
mm,
But also I think there is like a professional standard because someone said, I think it was Lucy said about having your makeup done. Like, I don't think you need to look pristine and
mm.
have that pressure. But of course, yeah, like it's always important to remember you're still a professional, and you want to present yourself as such. But that doesn't mean that being professional doesn't mean that I have to look pristine all the time.
That can save some time perhaps. Gareth
Yes.
says here, there's something about our focus on our actions ourselves. Tim mentioned this one of the lectures on stage 3, who was treating a guy who was public speaking who spent time on the audio of the speech saying he really messed up, but Tim couldn't spot the moment. And this is interesting. We can just obsess over certain things and just get stuck on it, and that nobody else notices.
Oh, all the time. Like again, actually, I think it helps that the people who are scrolling on social media are consuming so much content that if you make a mistake or you have a blemish, honestly, most people do not care. That's just the truth of it. Like, we care a lot more about these things than actually other people do. People are thinking about so many other things other than like a blemish on our skin. And that's not to like invalidate like anyone's feelings because I know just how it still is vulnerable putting yourself out there. And especially if you made a mistake on something, it's a bit like, oh, that's annoying. Wish I didn't do that. But I guess we can exaggerate things in our mind to feel like, the awfulizing tendency of like, this is so bad that this happened. When actually, like, yeah, wish that didn't happen. Wish I didn't make the mistake, but that doesn't define who I am or
Yeah,
what I
and
offer.
we're kind of this mental filtering and just seeing the negative stuff. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Lucy goes, great idea for a post there. I must be liked by everyone. Yes. Tracy says, when I make a script recording, it never seems to sound as polished as hypnosis apps. Is it bad to post videos like this?
So I, again, if I've heard some hypnotherapy recordings and like the quality just is not there, right? Like you can hear so much movement in the background. It doesn't sound professional. Is this something I'm going to want to download? Probably not. And I'm just being honest. But does it have to be studio professional? I don't think so either. I actually think it can be very accessible these days to get a good quality microphone and then create your recordings, learn how to edit it to make it a bit more smooth. And then that's it. It is so I think it's actually quite easy to make professional sounding content. But yeah, I think it does have to be of a quality to be valuable.
It's got to be. I
I don't
mean,
know if you
there's
agree.
aspect about doing something quick on social media that could be doesn't have to be quite as polished as something that might be for download, but download doesn't have to be. You don't have to get stuck with studio quality. I mean, I listen to some of the. You go and buy some of the ones that are out there by some quite well-known people, and they're not that good actually. Um,
Mm.
Often because they put them together many years ago, but nowadays it's very easy to make something reasonably good and then just if you've got any, you can just spend half an hour editing out some of the ums if you've got them there, or any sounds or whatever.
Yeah.
But and again, these tools are free. They don't doesn't take very long to do that, to learn how to
Mm.
do it. Do you cover that in your course, doing some audio editing there on the
Yes, I've included, like what mics I have and how to like edit on like apps, but for hypnotherapy recordings, I use GarageBand, and that's just like a
okay.
free platform. And it's very easy. I've had the same
That's on
mic
Mac,
for
GarageBand. I use Audacity. A lot of people use
Audacity.
Audacity,
Yeah.
which is free. And yeah, you don't have to. This is a very nice microphone. Rode NT USB. That's the one I tested out for my voice that I really like with my voice, and I've tried some different ones. So and they're at sort of like 100 quid or something, maybe 120 pounds. But you don't need to spend more than that at all, I don't think.
And you can, tax deductible.
Tax deductible on that too? There's that too.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so what other questions do we have here? What else do we want to, is there anything else you want to communicate, Harriet, that I haven't asked you about there?
Um, I guess like there was a comment about it being overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
Tracy, it feels so overwhelming. And you said to try and get it right. And I totally get that. It is overwhelming. It can feel overwhelming. But what I would say is, you know, it's okay to be a beginner, right? Like, especially your first year in business and your first year marketing yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn. And that's part of the journey. And I think you can either like repel that and like not want that, or you can embrace it. Um, and I personally, I chose to embrace it and just think, okay, what can I learn here? Okay, that was wrong. Fine, let me get that right. And I think it will continue to be like that for me, even though I'm 5 years in, there's still going to be hurdles, and like that's okay. And I think actually it's just thinking, are my thoughts making this more overwhelming? Like, is there any perfectionism there? Because perfectionism will make things overwhelming. And how can you just be like kinder to yourself and more compassionate? Because that's definitely gonna help you.
Very good. Very good. Um, I'm trying to see if there's anything else on here. I mean, obviously AI is a big thing, I think, to think about. And some
Mm.
people use AI to create social media. And I was just discussing with Harriet about this really cool tool for creating podcasts. Um, so there's a way of doing that, but I think there's an aspect there of also if it just ends up being it's not so you can certainly use it, I think, to plan content, to tweak content, and I think you should, keep an eye on that area. It's going to be evolving very fast, but
Mm.
you want to have your own, you need to know who you are and what you want to communicate so that you're authentic. Even if you're using some AI, that it's coming from you and you're
Yeah.
guiding it into what you want to create. But
Mm.
it could be very, very useful for generating ideas. If you're stuck for ideas, you can sit there and we haven't done anything on using AI for, maybe that would be interesting, Harriet, to sit down. I don't know if you use it, but to sit down and go, okay, let's look at my content planning and how you could use AI to help you content plan for the year. What do you think?
Yep, you definitely can. Like I use Chat GPT to get ideas or to
Hmm.
like refine something, or if I'm having like a particularly like I'm having a bit of a mind block, I might like write something and say, ChatGPT, please can you rewrite this 5 different times? And then I choose like my favorite, and then I refine it again. But I personally I don't use AI to like create a content, and then I just post that. Like I just don't like the way it looks. And I guess I I appreciate where AI is going, but I also am a little bit fearful that it's like, you're consuming content, you're like, oh, did a robot create that? That doesn't feel real. So I think there's always going to be space for like the human element. I think that's required as well, especially in like the industry that we're in.
So, but that's interesting, isn't it? Because putting those blemishes in your work, so to speak, nearly becomes a sign of the authenticity. In other words, it
Yeah,
doesn't have to be so polished. It could be pretty rough and ready. And that is the authenticity that's going to become more and more important and apparent because the AI stuff is going to look all very polished, right?
exactly. Yeah. What I was really sad about, I don't know if you've heard of this, Mark, but like a sign of ChatGPT is like the M dash.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I love using the M dash. I was using the M dash before ChatGPT was using the M dash.
Yes.
But now if I use it, people are like, oh, ChatGPT wrote that. It's like, no, I wrote that.
You'll have to have
But
another signature in
I
there,
have never signature. Yeah.
another signature element. Cool. Okay. So, any final, well, what about everybody going off and having some tasks to lead this? Should we challenge you? Is there a challenge in here? Should we set up a challenge? What do you think,
I would
Harriet?
love that. Yeah. Um, it could be if you're training or about to like start and become a student, it could just be creating a video saying, I'm starting this journey and this is why I've started it. Done. Like that could be it. Just tell people what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Okay, so doing a post on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, basically saying I'm taking the training and sharing about that. Yeah.
Yeah, tag the college.
Yeah, tag the college. That's fine. Don't
Joking.
have to do that. We like that. That would be very good. And if you tag Harriet, she'll follow you back, you see, because she does. I know that.
I'll root for you.
So,
Yeah, I do.
yeah. So everybody go out there, do a post. Would this be a personal? I would this be a personal profile rather than creating a business one?
So wait, well, when you actually officially start, definitely create a business one if you're serious about it. But I think for this challenge, it can even be such a feat to tell your friends and family, I'm doing this course and this is my plans
Yeah,
with it. That can
absolutely.
even be scarier
Yeah.
than creating a business account.
But now that's not the issue. The issue is overcoming the hesitation. Da, da, da.
Yes.
Get out there, post, make a post about it, and then after that you can come back and go, okay. And then the second thing is set up your business profiles. If and we recommend not using personal profiles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second thing would be set up your business profile and make a post in there,
Yeah, exactly.
and then you started.
Exactly. And you know what, guys? Like you can even put in the caption, I was nervous to post this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's authentic, right? To be like, you know what, I was nervous to post this, but I wanted to challenge myself. Like that is that is relatable. So many people feel that way. And it's okay to admit that, yeah, you know what, this was a bit nerve-wracking.
Behavioral experiment.
Behavior experiment.
Behavioral experiment. But this is the stuff that shifts the dial. Actually going, do something, have a little breakthrough. When do you want it to buy?
Mm.
By Saturday? I mean, we're talking about how long? I mean, we're talking about we're not we this isn't a 1 hour. You're not going to do like this. It's yeah. 30-second
Yeah,
video, right, Harriet?
yeah, by Saturday.
By Saturday. Everybody, 30-second video by Saturday. Um, come on, I want to does everyone think they can do that? Good. Yeah. Come on, who else? Who else is here? Lucy, Tracy, are you still there? We're gonna do it? And really, this is a chance to like push yourself a little bit. Yeah. Fantastic.
Well
Fantastic. Yeah.
done.
Come on, push yourself here. It's you got to get out of the comfort zone, but that's where the freedom and creativity and as Harriet's communicating, the empowerment. Yeah.
Mm.
This is empowering. It's going to enable you. Take that step. Take that step. Anybody else there? You're all just lurking in the background. You're in, Isla. Fantastic. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We are, Aggie. Yeah. Okay, Aggie, but you're going to post. Yeah. Elspeth, help me to procrastinate with. Are you going to use it to procrastinate from the writing assignments? That's okay. You can use it for that. I already bought a tripod during the webinar. Well done. Good. Yeah. That's
Good.
you've got to post. You've got to post, Lucy. And buy. We're all. There's loads of sort of equipment fetishists, and we buy all the fancy equipment and spend ages reading the reviews and get the equipment, and then we don't use it.
It's like that saying, all the gear, but no idea.
All the gear, but no idea. All the gear, but no idea, and no action. Anybody else going to commit in here? Come on, we want to, and we are going to follow up on this, by the way. So,
Yes.
oh no, I won't commit then. Okay,
Uh,
fantastic.
it's amazing, Tracy. Like you've got it there.
Okay,
So
look, this is the just tell us that you're here. This is the next challenge for you to overcome and just say post. Okay, I'm here. I'm thinking about posting. Because engagement is important, not to hold back. Yeah.
Mm.
Jessica says, I will set up my professional page and will think about posting. Okay, but you've at least you posted here. I can't commit to Saturday, but we'll do next week. Magda, that's great. Geet, it's taking me a lot to say this, but challenge. Well, hey, Geet, that's fantastic. Do you want? Should we invite you in to go live here on YouTube with us now as the next step? What about that? We could promote you to panelist. You could be up here. Yes, I'll post. It's been a while. Fantastic. Corinne, I'll set up an Instagram account thanks to Harriet. Excellent. We are going to follow up. And Natasha, yes, we'll post next week. Personal
Well done,
breakthroughs here,
everyone.
guys. This is fantastic. And I want to ask, does everyone see how you can really use what's going on in the course? All the practical exercises, both the practice sessions with partners, but your own work to work through these issues.
Mm.
Yeah. Does everyone see that? That's and what I've seen is the people that really go to town on this stuff, really go to town on it, and don't just work with some surface stuff or something, but on this stuff, they go through. They experience the change, they see that it works, and then they'll follow through. So fantastic. Okay.
Yes.
If you're a student already, come to Harriet sessions in the hub as they're already great and informed. Yeah, and we'll also send out for hub members, we're going to send you out, make sure you've got links to see Harriet's webinars that are recorded. Okay, and her course is publicly, it's £895, which is still immense value for what you get because it is so good. But if you're in the hub, I can't remember how much. I can't remember how
Or
much it is. 300, I think it's
395.
even 200 in the hub. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah, okay.
Massively discounted. Yeah.
Massively
Massively
discounted.
discounted. Yeah. And that will really get you through. And yeah, and if you want extra, just email Harriet and she'll message you if you've got questions as you go through.
Yeah. So the task I introduced on the forum on the community for the students was about identifying your client's problem, desire, and then your solution. So that was really about your messaging, which is, I don't want to say it's advanced because it's not too advanced, but it is something when you're ready to practice, you would really want to think about. So I would head back to that post because that's going to be one you're going to 100% need when you start.
Fantastic. And those of you who are in taking the course right now, if you are sharing about, share about taking the course, share about the discoveries you're making, the books you're reading, things like that. People love to read that stuff. Somebody's on a journey here, taking a course, what's happening. And that sense about following you on the sort of cutting edge journey of your own learning, I think there's something exciting about watching somebody learning stuff. They're not producing, this is like just what's dawning for them. And there's something very, very juicy about that, everybody. So share about it, blog about it. Yeah. Okay. We've gone over time a little bit, as we tend to a little bit. We're going to wrap up now. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Any final words of wisdom, Harriet?
Um, I was about to say just do it, but that's,
I knew
that's
you
a
were
bit
going to say
lame.
that. Just do it. That's it.
Just do
Just do
it.
it.
But I guess it is like just start, believe in yourself and know that you can refine as you go along. Like you can continue to learn and refine. And I just know that you'll create something amazing. Even if you don't think that right now, like I know that if you're doing this course 100%, you have something to offer. So just start.
If you're doing this course 100%, you have something to offer. Just start. Just do it. Okay. I feel inspired, if not a little scared. Great. Fantastic. Well, if one person here has a breakthrough on this, then we've done our job.
100%.
Really good, everybody. Let's see you out there on social media. I feel inspired to be. I've been neglecting my social media, being focused on other stuff, but I feel inspired to get back around to it. Wonderful. Have a great day, everyone, and continue to stay engaged. Send your questions in. Those of you who are thinking of taking the training, I invite you to really book in with for a course advisor call, because we can really go into depth there. Sometimes that's with me, other people on the team. If you want to email Harriet with some questions, I'm sure she'll be happy to respond to that and even sort of have a chat to you as well. So
Yep.
we're really here to help you. We want to make sure that that's a very informed decision, that when you sign up, you're absolutely, yes, this is the right thing for me. And Harriet will tell you, we are not a sales focused organization in terms of trying to sell it to everybody, because she's one of the people that provides the 18 hours of one-to-one coaching when you take the diploma. And if we get the wrong people on the course that it's not a good fit for, and they're not a good fit for the course, it's a mess, right, Harriet? It doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say, like, if anyone DMs me, I'm always like so honest. And like, when someone says, "Is it hard?" I would say, "Yeah, like it is hard, you know, but it's worth it, and it's the development that you get is incredible." Um, but yeah, like as Mark said, like we're of course so honest and authentic about that. We want it to be right for you, because if it doesn't feel right, then it's probably not right.
Exactly, exactly. So very good, everybody. Okay, have a fantastic day. Harriet, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Lovely.
Thank you,
You again.
everyone.
Yeah, great. Great. Good luck. Best wishes. You're so welcome. You're welcome. Oh, Vavara. Vavara's just signed up and joined. This is very enthusiastic, which is great. Yeah, keep your enthusiasm high, keep your optimism high, and continue to attend to your hope about things. And whatever's going on personally or in the world at large, our job is to stay hopeful. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll just share that my Sophia, my daughter, is working with people with young Parkinson's, doing a research project, and we were talking about they don't talk about dopamine, they talk about hopamine.
Wow.
Just and that's what we're in the job of, is we're in the job of nurturing hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
So be hopeful for yourselves as well. Nurture that optimism and hope. It's very important. Take care, everybody. Thank you,
Bye,
Harriet.
everyone.